to my Misty Glow studio. I started this painting a while back, but this morning I went down in the woods here at my studio and noticed how the creek was flowing so nicely, which made me remember this painting, watercolor painting, which I wanted to finish up. So I'll be doing that this afternoon, and you can watch along with me. First I want to spray a little bit of water to rejuvenate these colors. They're just watercolors that I put into this palette. To put some highlights on here. I'm always inspired when I'm down in the woods. My favorite place to be. Every time I'm down there, I see something new or different. This morning when I was kneeling down by the creek watching the waterfalls, a frog jumped out in front of me, which was surprising, seeing how it's been chilly lately, but apparently it wasn't too cold for the frog. He jumped right in front of me and landed in the creek. What I'm trying to do here is get a little bit of white highlight on the side of the trees to add a little bit more dimension to them. I'm using my rigger or liner brush. And then I'll want to add some reflection as well in the water from the highlights. And watercolor always dries lighter, so even though this might look too much right now, as it dries it should be fine. We've got a misty glow going on in the background here, which is interesting because that's the name of my studio, Misty Glow Studio. But I always am fascinated when I see a glow back behind the trees, and it entices me to want to go back there and explore, which is what we have back behind our woods. We have an open field, so especially if it's a foggy or misty morning, it's nice to walk back in there, and that's usually where the deer stay as well. Although they come into the woods quite often and come up into the yard actually by the house here. But they enjoy being out in that open field behind the woods as well. Now I want to bring some of that white into the reflection here in the creek. And again, this will dry lighter. You want to wave this a little bit, give it a bit of a zigzaggy feel, because water is always moving. It's never quite totally still. There's always something, whether it's bugs or insects or larvae down in the water or bouncing along the top of the water, that makes little ripples. And when you paint something like this, you can almost get lost in it. Looking into the depths of the water and sort of losing yourself in it. I've got a new sketchbook I'm going to try in the coming year, 2025, and I went to experiment more with gouache in the sketchbook. I've used gouache before. I've got some over here. Gouache. And here's my other watercolors. But I found that it tends to dry so flat looking, so I don't know if there's ways around that. I just haven't experimented that much with gouache. Okay, bit on here. Now I like to have a few splatters. I'm not sure if I want to try to get them on here with the liner brush or if I want to actually splatter them on there. Just to indicate more ripples across the top of the water. You might let me know if you've used gouache and what you think of it. The different applications you might use, whether it's on watercolor paper or in a sketchbook, or how you've tried experimenting with it and what your thoughts are on using gouache. Now I'm going to spatter some on here. I think I've got the ripples going across the way I want. We'll get some spattering going on next. Get a different brush for that. When I mix up some water for the gouache, or for the splatters, I usually use a lid. Like this. Now this is an area where I do use gouache for the splatters. Even acrylic gesso. Here we've got the white gouache. Okay, I'll spray some water into the edge of this lid and add gouache to it, the white gouache. I've got a little bit of blue in there from a previous project, and that will be fine. The white won't be quite as stark when I splatter it. There, I'm mixing up a bit of blue in there, which will look nice splattered onto the creek. Get it nice and juicy. Here you can see some of the splatters coming off, and you get a bit more moist. And there's some sparkles on top of the water. If you get too much or you don't care for the way it's looking, you just take a tissue and gently sop up the part that you don't care for. necessarily smear it, just again, since it dries light, it won't stand out as much. You can even dip the tissue in some water and gently lift it off. Now I also want, like that light area there, I also want some lighter splatters back in there, and I can add some of the yellow to that. And make a creamy yellow for splattering. I think I want it a little bit more yellow. There we go. And I'm going to splatter the yellow back in here and in this front foreground area. And this can look like yellow flowers, or just the way the sunlight is hitting the leaves there in the woods. And just a little bit to bring some light into that background there. And that should do it. Always fun to play with watercolors. You can always come back to it, add what you want to add, lift out what you want lifted out. And again, my interest in this was sparked by going down in the woods, taking a walk this morning along our creek. And giving me a reason to come play in my studio this afternoon. I hope you enjoyed playing along with me here. And remember, you can always change a watercolor painting. Lift it off, add ripples back into the water, play with the reflections, lift off any of the sparkles you don't like, and just have fun. Hope you enjoyed visiting today. See you next time. Bye.